So, Kerry, our next dimension is evaluate and feedback. And we've identified three capabilities here: measure program effectiveness, evaluate learning impact, and review performance. So, I'm really interested in diving into these three if we can. Do you mind expanding a bit more on measuring the program effectiveness? I'm really keen to hear about that one.
Absolutely. Look, gone are the days that, that the happy sheets, because as we know, people, when they leave the program, they just, they're finished, their mindset are now on to where they're going next or back to the workplace. So they go tick, happy, happy, happy. And it definitely isn't a form to tell us exactly how effective the program was or what we can do to enhance it. So there's a range of different ways of we can collect evaluation data, whether it's before, during and after the program, and also your analysis methods. It's really important. So, to make sure that we have a look at that and we design it so it's effective as well when we sort of use those evaluation methods.
And it sounds like as learning professionals, we've also got to build a skill set of maybe even data analysis. Is that where we're going now?
Absolutely. So there is so many techniques that we can do to sort of like pull out that data. So, not just on the program, but sort of, the learner experience. So where did we get more engagement? Where do we get less engagement? It really helps us to hone in on the areas that we specifically need to improve and how we can improve them. So, it's where are we adding value? What was effective, what wasn't effective, all of those sorts of things. So and there are a range of tools that we can do to measure that. So it's really important that we have a look at that. And as I said, happy sheets have their place, but if they're used correctly, but there are so many better methods that we can apply.
That measurement leads itself to the ability to report that. A quick anecdote: I got taught by a really good friend of mine years ago, a colleague. He worked out that if he handed out chocolates at the end of a session, people would get the dopamine hit from the chocolates, would feel good, and based on reciprocity of him giving them something, he actually was able to work the system to get those happy sheets, as we call them, all straight positives. And no one questioned it for about 3 years. And he told me his secret. He said, "Oh, you should try it." And I said, "But where's the feedback on the process?" So gone are the days of handing out bribes and chocolates to get smiles and happy sheets. If we can measure those programs effectively, it does lead us to the next capability, Kerry, around evaluating the learning impact. So sure, we can measure it and we can report on it and we can look at some data analysis, but do you mind expanding a little bit more on the evaluation of that learning impact for us?
Yeah, well, the previous one was focusing on the actual program, the design and delivery of the program. So this evaluating impact is more about, well, how did that learning impact when it was applied back in the learning place? So, what are our basic measurements? So where do we start so that we can actually measure the improvement in behaviour, performance, and actual business results for the organisation as well?
So this will be, when you say again about the organisation, surely this would be about engaging stakeholders and I don't know, establishing metrics or monitoring the feedback with those. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yep, absolutely. So it's sort of having a look, as I said, the baseline evaluation and then monitoring the actual learning impact and measuring it against that baseline that we set up. So we sort of, and then we proactively, seek and monitor feedback from from our stakeholders in regarding to the design of our program, the delivery, and be able to adjust our methodologies to improve the learning impact going forward.
Okay, so there's that professional flexibility that we talked about in one of the other dimensions about being able to adapt, flex, and adjust that methodology according to what we're seeing real time from the learners. And perhaps that even accounts for the fact that learners will be individual. No two learners or no two groups are ever, or cohorts are ever going to be the same. So gone are the days of our cookie cutter. Let's just go through and sheep dip everybody through one set of training. We really need to be on our toes if we're evaluating that learning impact.
Absolutely. And it's sort of, and it's measuring the impact over a period of time. So, we just need to, as I said before, it's the individual and the organisation. So whether we do it, like a week after, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, identifying with your stakeholders, when do we need to sort of monitor that impact so that we get the real understanding of, the learning that has occurred and as and the difference it's made.
And look, what you've just said is a natural transition to the last one about review performance. I mean, we are the Asia Pacific Institute for Learning and Performance, and rather than just training or developing or getting people to learn, we're actually looking to see performance gains and performance enhancements for people. Do you mind expanding a little bit more on the review performance capability as well, please, Kerry?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. And, this should be a natural thing that we do, but it's sort of seeking support from our stakeholders, our learners, and our peers on what we can do to improve our learning outcomes and our own skills. So this is sort of, very much about you. So it's incorporating that feedback to improve the performance outcomes. It's monitoring the learners and the stakeholders to assess their strengths and their areas of improvement as well, because it's not you're not solely responsible for the learning. So it's also monitoring and how can we influence other people that have impact on our learning. And also, then for us to make sure that once we do identify them, what are the actions that we need to do to make sure that we continually improve?
Wow. So we've focused a lot on some of the other dimensions about the learner, but I've just realized that this particular capability here, review performance, is really the mirror, isn't it? It's holding up the mirror for us to look at how do we keep facilitating that learning by gauging the organization, gauging the learners, but looking at ourselves and constantly improving, obviously with other members in a peer reviewed network to get better so that we can show up and be more effective for our learners. Wow. Yeah. So I just realized that that last one's really like a mirror.
And it is, and it's quite broader. So it's not just on our design and delivery, but remember when we were talking about the capability on project management. So, we now need to manage, we review our performance on, our stakeholder engagement, our design, our communications, our marketing, our priming our learners to make sure that they're ready to learn. It's our evaluation process, our learning strategy. So it's sort of reflecting back on the whole process and identifying those areas that we can improve on. And just one last point too, as well as evaluating that feedback and gathering the data and analysing the data, it's about what we do with that data afterwards, because it's really important that we can make conclusions and recommendations so that stakeholders are informed as well. So we document that.
Gee, we just keep going deeper and deeper. So this is really about action. Evaluating feedback is really about action, isn't it?
Very much so. Really important that we don't sort of, okay, that program's done, move on to the next one. So it's constantly what can be improved, what areas, who can improve. So, yeah, and it has to be structured. It can't be sort of, oh, I might look at this sort of component. There is so many components. So, we've got to plan, we've got to determine, and also for ourselves, we might just choose, this is a particular area I want to improve on. How or where do I get, that feedback to ensure that, it's constructive and it's honest so that we can benefit from it.
Well, this evaluate and feedback dimension is certainly one to look forward to. Let's see what our mentors bring for the three capabilities of measure program effectiveness, evaluate learning impact, and review performance. Kerry, thank you once again, and let's dive in with the mentors now and check out their sessions.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joshua.